and we will get started. Okay, so for the record, it's Sunday night, February 17th, and this is our week 6 of Duplicate, which is about objections. And I hesitated to even title it anything about objections because I feel like that training is done over and over and over, like how to handle objections and what do you say about different objections. And there's so much good training on it. I mean, I watched a ton of it today just for the sake of getting myself trained and up to date on it. But I kind of want to attack this from a different standpoint and or a different point of view, maybe, of just why we freak out about objections. And so I think that we shy away, we get our people to a certain point in the conversation. So when we're talking about prospecting and we're talking about recruiting, it's like we get our people to a certain point in the conversation, and then if they start asking questions or objecting, it's almost like we freak out and totally shy away from the conversation. And so I want to have us equipped enough, and for you all to be able to help your teams feel equipped enough to push through that, to push past those objections or those uncomfortable conversations. It's part of this business. It's something that you're going to run into all the time. And I think that the way that we can excel in this is to really change our mindset about it. Doesn't it always come back to mindset? But I think if we can see it more as an opportunity that is continuing the conversation, it's them asking for more information. It's probably them trying to work out in their head whether or not the business is a good fit for them. If we could see it all from that standpoint, I think we could be encouraged by it instead of afraid of it. So, like I said, there's so much training on it. Y'all can find your own training on objections. There's tons. There's one in particular I was going to post when I got on Daily Experience today that Melissa McCarthy had put together like a 5-day series addressing all the different objections. And so I'll post that later. But really what I wanted us to focus on was our fear response to when we start hearing objections from people and how we kind of put up defense mechanisms or shy away from it. So I wanted to tell y'all a story about when I was a brand new nurse practitioner. So when I was brand new in my business, working in a small pediatric practice, I spent the first couple of months following the doctor and going in his rooms with him and just kind of listening to how he saw patients and how he answered questions. And the thing that scared me the most, I was never scared to do an exam. I was never scared to walk in and introduce myself. I was never scared to interact with the children. The thing that scared me the most was the bizarre questions that the moms would come up with. Like, y'all, I have heard it all, and I can't even tell you the most bizarre questions that I hear when you're dealing with a mom in her misprized possession, right? Okay, so I was just terrified when the exam was over and I would say, do you have any questions? And I would be telling them about the different milestones that was coming up with the kid, whatever. They would start asking these questions that I had no clue. And it freaked me out in a way that made me feel insecure, I guess, or almost ticked off that they would have more questions. I don't know. Like, I just hated that part of the visit. And what I realized was that I was afraid I wouldn't know the answer, or I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to respond appropriately. And looking back, that's been so long ago. That was probably 14, 15 years ago, feeling like that. Now I'm like, come on, bring it. Like, ask me the weirdest question you possibly can about your kid, and I'm going to have the best answer. But the two things I really learned from that, looking back, was the first thing, and this is what I tell anytime I'm training a new nurse practitioner, is 90% of what I do as a pediatric nurse practitioner is reassurance. I am reassuring the parent, your child is fine. Your child is fine. And reassuring them that they're doing a great job, okay? But in order to get to that place, I had to fake it a lot. And so I always have, one of the doctors that I work for always says, fake it till you make it. And not that I made up answers in a way that was dangerous to the parent and to the child, but a lot of times the questions they were asking were not detrimental to the health of the child? Should I start fruit before I start vegetable? Should the baby drink 3 ounces versus 3.5 ounces? I mean, like, questions that were just not detrimental, that my answer was not going to harm the child or the parent in any way. And so what mattered was that I answered confidently. What mattered is that that parent had confidence in my answer, that I knew what I was talking about, that I was for her and for her child. And so my first lesson from that is just act confident. Whether or not you feel confident, whether or not you know the answer or not, darn it, act like you do, okay? And if you don't, if it is something that is earth-shattering and detrimental to the health of someone, find the answer for them. And there's plenty of times that I have said to a parent, you know, that's a great question. I've never run into this before. Or, I've never seen this before. Just the other day, I had a brand newborn, like she's not even 2 days old, and her umbilical cord was doing something really weird. In 15 years of practice, you would think I've seen it all, but I had not seen this. And so I was like, you know what? I've never seen this before. And it was told, the parents were fine with me looking at them and saying, I've never seen this before. Let me run and get the doctor. Like, let me go find an answer for you. And I think it is fine for us to say, no one's ever asked me that before. Let me find someone that knows the answer to that, or let me find someone that has the same objection as you, and let them tell you their story of how they dealt with this. So the second thing that I really learned, and I kind of said this already, was that the majority of the parents' questions, and just that part of the visit when the parent brought the baby in to see me, that part of the visit of them getting to ask questions and the answer, was an opportunity for me to encourage. And it was really an opportunity for me to tell the parent, your baby is fine. You are doing a great job. You're doing a great job with this baby. And that's what they want. They want to hear from a professional that they're doing it right and that they're doing a great job. And I just feel like those 2 points translate so much in this business, in the same thing when we're doing our prospecting and our recruiting. Because one, whether or not you're shaking in your boots or not, you need to act confident in answering their questions and their objections. And there's so much training on that, like I said, that, you know, I have a ton of conversations going on right now on Facebook with a bunch of single foster moms that are looking for work at home job opportunities. And so I'm in the midst of talking to a whole bunch of them, and I'm starting to get all their objections, you know, and my first thing is to like roll my eyes and be like, forget it, I'm done, you know, but really what they want to know is, do you really think I could do this? Do you really think that I could make this work? And so it's your opportunity. That's the space. The objection is the space for you to find out how to encourage them and how to speak life into, like, I do think you could do this. I do, you know, let's talk through it. What does your day look like? Whatever the objection is, whether it's the time or the money or whatever, it's kind of your opportunity to speak into that and to really encourage them. I did hear something today that I thought was super interesting that was just like, when people start objecting, we know that it's just further conversation. A lot of times they're just wanting to get more information. They may not even know that, but they're just wanting to get more information at that point. But also, most people will respond with an objection when there's really a deeper insecurity. The objection may really be nothing to do about money or contacting their friends or whatever. It may really have a deeper insecurity within themselves. And so that's our job. Like, we got to dig and figure out what is that insecurity, and just kind of dig and ask more questions. And then can you speak into that? Can you speak some life into that of like, your friends aren't going to think you're crazy. They're going to be excited for you. And if they're not your friends, or just whatever. I mean, we could go hours on the individual objections. But so I just kind of wanted to tell you all that story to say, like, I feel like it really translates into the opportunity that we have at that point in our prospecting and in recruiting, that point of the conversation where we can kind of take it further, and just encourage and speak life. So when I was thinking about like training my new nurse practitioners on this, and like, how could I possibly, there is no possible way to give them the information for every question that they may be asked. And so it's kind of the same thing here. Like, there's no possible way to train on every objection that you're going to get and every individual story that you're going to hear. But the only way that I got better at that was by doing it for 15 years. And I'm not saying you have to be recruiting for 15 years, but it was doing it over and over, even when I was scared, even when the parent asked a question that I didn't know, and I wanted to roll my eyes and be like, that is not important to what we're talking about today, or whatever, was to keep doing it. And so that's kind of just my encouragement for you, is keep doing it. Like, when people start objecting to you, dig in with them. Don't write them off and be like, okay, well, they said no. They said they didn't have time. They said they didn't have money. Dig into that and say, well, tell me what your day looked like. You know, I heard a great example today from, like I said, I listened to a ton of trainings today. When somebody was talking about money, she challenged the person and said, if $1,000 showed up in the mail today, $1,000 check to you, completely unexpected, unexplained, what would you do with that $1,000? And she said that the way that people answer that is so interesting, because it really opens up so much conversation. You know, she said a lot of times it's like, well, the kids need this, or, you know, the kids, I need to use this money for that. And she was like, it just kind of puts priority into perspective, and then I can speak more into that with, you know, you could make $1,000 a month and be able to do X, Y, Z for your kids or for yourself or whatever. So I'll post that training series that I was listening to today. But the best way we're going to get there is doing it over and over, practicing answering those questions over and over, and we'll gain confidence. And we'll eventually be able to look back at that newbie and be like, ask me any question, give me any objection, bring it to me, because I think that I've got it. So that's really all I had, is I just really wanted to change our mindset. And I had to kind of dig deep in myself when I was thinking about this today, of just like, why do I hate when people start asking me questions, or why do I hate when people start responding with objections? And so much of it has to do with our own fear that we're not equipped well enough, or that we don't fully believe enough what we're saying, or whatever. So that being said, I am happy to talk through specific objections if anyone feels like they're hearing the same objection over and over, or if anyone has questions about what I just said, or kind of wonders where they can go to get information when they're hearing the different objections. I thought I would just kind of leave us. I know that was like kind of fast and furious, 15 minutes, but I thought I would just open it up and see if y'all want to talk through some of that. If you're hearing the same objection over and over, that you'd love to hear what everybody else's response to. So, anyone, take the floor.
I consistently hear I don't have time for it. And the two consultants that I have recruited, I think that's also become a barrier for them to be doing work. But the thing that I struggle with is I constantly see them on Facebook or doing these other things, and it's like, you can do this in these small breaks. So it's kind of like, how do you make it a priority to someone if it doesn't seem like it is?
It's so hard, because you kind of want to call them out and be like,
right,
oh, just spent 30 minutes talking about a cooking show or whatever they're doing on Facebook. It's like, you want to call them out and be like, that was 30 minutes you could have worked your business. And so I think one of the best ways to do that is to ask them, what are they willing to commit? Like, you know, time-wise, what are you willing to commit each day or each week to this business? And even further than that, I would go back, what do you want your paycheck to be? Like, what do you want out of this business, and what do you want your paycheck to be? Okay, so now you said you want your paycheck to be $250 a month. What are you willing to commit to make that $250 a month? And kind of work backwards with them and just ask them, like, okay, you've said that you're going to give this 5 hours a week, so that's an hour a day. Tell me about your day. You know, and have them walk you through their day. And sometimes there's time pockets in there that they don't. People that are not high functioning like us, that cannot multitask well like us, need someone to say, like, oh, hey, you're in the car for 30 minutes in the morning. That's where you can listen to a training, or that's where you could make 2 phone calls. And then as far as like, so that's my main suggestion, is talk through their day with them and help them find those pockets.
Okay.
So my suggestion is exactly what you were just saying about, like, I just saw you scrolling on Facebook for 30 minutes, is maybe put that story back on yourself and say, you know, I feel like I don't have time either. And then I realize I find myself in the middle of the day on Facebook for 30 minutes, and I'm kicking myself because I'm real, you know, like, basically you're saying exactly what they're doing, but make it sound like you realize you're doing it, you know, and just like
Right.
30 minutes I could have worked my business.
Right.
I don't know. Are those helpful?
Yeah, and that's probably, of the objections I get, that's probably, I want to say, 90% of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, I work full time. I'm obviously not a mom yet, but will be soon. And I just, to me, if you want something out of it, it's not that hard to do. So it's kind of like, if you're not that type A personality, it's hard to get somebody motivated to do it in just these pockets of time. But
And it
yeah,
almost goes to what we were talking about the first week of like their why. Like maybe it goes back to learning what their why is. And is there, you know, if you want it big enough, you're going to make time in your day. Like you're going to get up an hour earlier, or you're going to stay up after the kids have gone to bed. Like I think that's what I hear over and over on There's this level 5 training that I'm in right now for people that are getting close to their car. And those girls are making time in their day, like literally
right,
multiplying time in their day, where it's like, okay, well, I can go on less sleep so that I can get this business done.
right.
It ultimately comes down to their why, and is their why big enough to really make them want to work?
Yeah, exactly.
But it is maddening to hear someone give you that excuse when you're like, really? You want to talk to me about time? Like I work full time and have 3 kids, and you know what? And sometimes you can even gently tell a story of like, oh my gosh, you know, there's this girl on my team, and she started this business when she had newborn triplets and was working full time, and she found time. So I
Yeah,
think
I mean, Nicole is a great example of that. She's working full time, has 2 kids, and, you know, doing a bunch of stuff, and she can make it work. So it's like, okay, why can't you guys?
But I also wonder too, like underlying when they're saying that, what is their insecurity? You know,
Right,
like they need to hear us speak life into that of like, hey, I believe you can do this. You know, I think that you can do this. I think we can look at your schedule and find time together if it's worth it to you, if it's something that you want.
right.
What else? What's another one that y'all hear a lot? I read a really funny one the other day from Liz Duggar. She had reached out to someone, or maybe it was, I've read one from her before, but maybe this one was Caroline Michael Slovic. And she had reached out and said, you know, hey girl, I'd like to tell you more about my business. Have you ever heard of it? Something like that. And the girl wrote back, it was so rude. I mean, directly wrote back and said, Caroline, I am not interested in your pyramid scheme. You know, and you could have taken that and been so offended or just not responded or whatever. And Caroline was so great in the way she responded back. She just said, you know, haha, girl, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're not interested in a pyramid scheme. I'm not either. You know, those are illegal. And the doctors I work for would never endorse that and put their name on something like that. Like, she basically kind of laughed with the girl and just turned it around to be like, in so many words, saying, this isn't a pyramid. You know, but she gently kind of joked back and was like, and here's all the reasons why it's not a pyramid. So I thought that was a good idea. And I got one like that today from a girl that said, thanks, somebody has reached out to me about this before, and I'm not interested, I'm not comfortable in reaching out to people about selling stuff. And so I wrote back and was like, you know what? I totally hear you. I felt the same way. I have actually found, and so I'm doing my feel, felt, found method. I hear how you feel. I felt the same way. But what I found is that I'm typically using social media to post about my products, and then people are messaging me. So I'm not reaching out to people to try my products or to sell my products. And so I think she was kind of surprised when she got that response back. But I thought that was, I think that's interesting, is to, you know, always joke back, and like they think you're going to be offended. And I think a great way is to relate with them and be like, oh my gosh, I thought the same thing, or I'm glad you said that, you know, kind of builds more of a relationship. What else? Anybody else have a good one, or one that they keep hearing over and over?
I've been hearing some of my prospects saying that they would have a hard time selling the products to their network because of the price.
I never know what to say to that. I feel like what I have found personally in my own business, and this is what I tell people a lot, is you would be surprised who spends money on their face. It's so interesting. My first several BBLs that I hosted for directs and stuff, I would kind of walk in the room, and this is terrible. This sounds so judgmental, but I would walk in the room and sort of in my head pin, like, she's going to buy, she could care less, you know? And I was always wrong. And I was so surprised because the women that I thought, you know, with like the designer purses and their nails done and whatever, that I thought would spend money on skincare typically weren't. And then it was the women that I did not think were spending money on skincare. And so I think that's I think that's interesting to tell people, is just like, I thought the same thing, and you would be really surprised at who actually spends money on skincare. And also just tell them that there's multiple ways that you could work through price objections with them. Like, oh, there's so many ways you can work around that, you know, by helping them realize what they're really spending each month, or ask them what they're willing to spend and see if you can't work with them. And it actually goes back to their network too. Like, their network may be a bunch of brand new moms that are trying to stay home and have no money, or college girls that have no money, but like, who does their network know? You know, if it's a whole bunch of college girls that are broke, well, where's their moms and grandmothers? They'll buy skincare. And so sometimes helping them see that their network is a lot bigger than what they think their immediate network is helpful.
Hey, Nicole, do you follow Charlotte Corn on Instagram by chance? Because she just posted something similar to what Lindsay Isham did the other day about the paper skincare masks that were $2.50 a pop. And if you use them multiple times a day for 60 days, how much they cost, which I think tons of people have gotten caught in that trap of, well, that's just the mask, that's not the other pieces and whatever else. And it ends up adding up to be more than a regimen would be. And our regimens end up lasting longer than 60 days anyways.
I don't follow her, but I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I guess the bottom line is, in anything, trying to make the person identify the value in what you have to offer, and breaking it down in a way that's meaningful to them and meets them at their level.
Yeah, Nicole, you're exactly right, because I feel like so many people look at this as just like, are people going to want skincare? Like, they straight up, like, are people going to want to buy expensive skincare? And I think sometimes what you just said, like, we've got to attach a value to it that's meaningful to them. And so, like, it may just be straight up skincare to one person, but what this is for me is this right here. Like, giving me enough money to free myself up to pursue a passion of fostering. Or what, you know, kind of like redirecting back to whatever their passion or their why is, and saying, like, this can be the vehicle to pursue those things. It doesn't have anything to do with skincare. We're lucky that we have great skincare that sells really well, but kind of connecting back to their, how you said it better than I did, but I think that's a really great point. Anybody else think of anything? I feel like I didn't have a ton of information for y'all, but I was like, there's no reason to go into individual objections because there's so much good training on this, but I just thought, God, we've got to change our mindset on it, because I just shy away from it so quickly. And I don't want to be discouraged by receiving people's objections. I want to be really encouraged by it, because that's typically the beginning of growth. If they're asking more questions and kind of pursuing in that way, it's not a no. You know, you haven't gotten a no yet. They're just kind of continuing conversation. So. Okay, let's spend this week to continue this conversation. If y'all keep thinking through, I'll post several different trainings that I listened to today that I really liked. But if y'all keep thinking or coming up with other objections or ways that you've handled them, or things that you've seen other people do that you felt were helpful, let's share those with each other and just kind of continue the conversation. But we'll keep it short and sweet tonight, and I'll let y'all go. But thanks for making time to be on, and I guess stay tuned for what we have next. We may end up kind of plugging into different groups that Liz and Becky have going on right now, or we may go back to Sunday night trainings just as the hive as a whole. But at some point, you can expect on my to-do list for this week is to really learn the ins and outs of the new product of Spotless and Emblemish, and hopefully I'll be doing some sort of appearance on that just so that we're all on the same page with kind of the ins and outs of that stuff.
Do you know, I feel like Becky mentioned she and Liz were doing a live virtual event this week.
Yeah, it's hidden. Susan and I had to look for it this weekend. She did a live video on Thursday in Team 320, and the group page for that is in the comments of that.
Okay. I didn't know if she was going to make another announcement or if I just imagined I heard something and didn't.
Yeah, no, she'll probably follow up with it tomorrow just to remind people where the page and stuff is.
Okay,
but
cool.
I believe it's on the 21st, and it looks like it's going to be pretty product heavy because it's going to be announcing the new products and stuff, or telling more about the new products and stuff.
Okay.
I would think
I'll tag you, Kendall.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
Oh, good. Okay, yeah, she'll tag you in the post so we can all find that group. I don't know who's speaking or anything yet. I'm sure that's on her to-do list for tomorrow. But yeah, hopefully, I think it'll be a great group, at least for people that are wanting to learn more about the new products. And I'm sure there would be a business touch in there somewhere. All right, any parting thoughts before we sign off? Okay. I'll hopefully see y'all soon, hopefully this week or something like that. Thanks for making time to be on here tonight, y'all. Good night.